Hello, welcome to my video. Today I'm gonna cover my game from 2011. The last game I covered was the third loss in a row, and this was the fourth game I played. I had 0 out of 3, and I was white here, so I chose e4. Because at that point I was still a 1 e4 player. My opponent played e6, which is something I was expecting. And now I usually played knight d2 or e5. But I want to mix things up with bishop d3. It can transpose to some variations after knight d2. If black wants, he can do something differently here. If black tries knight f6, we can transpose into something like this with c3 and something like this, knight e2, knight c6, knight d2 now, and go to f3 and have a Tarrasch defense. But black can do something else. He can play c5 immediately. And now the issue is, if I go with knight f3, he has maybe c4, and then he can take my pawn on e4. And I think the way to go here is either to capture on d5, which can lead to a position I don't really like, with an isolator on d5. And the second one, which I played, is c3. It leads to an isolator on my side on d4, but I have more space and it's more pleasant to play like this. Black played here knight c6, I went knight f3 trying to control the d4, and now he took. Of course, if he played knight f6, I would certainly transpose to this line with castling, and maybe now I would even sacrifice the pawn, I don't know. I cannot recall how I was thinking at that moment, but I don't think it was much. It was a deep thought at this point. So here I just played knight f3. He took on e4, bishop e4, and now knight f6, getting some tempi. Bishop d3, and now we get an isolator on d4. I knew something about such positions, but even today I'm not so comfortable with playing such positions. I took bishop e7, and now castles, knight c3. As you can see, his bishop on c8 is very passive. All my pieces will be very active. I will put my knight either to e5 or my bishop on g5. Rook is going to e1, and even though I have weakness on d4, I think so far it's not relevant. Because it's a middle game, it's not an end game where it might be a problem. Now black has to worry about me not getting initiative. So he tries to develop his bishop by b6, which is quite normal. I go rook e1, and now bishop b7. Maybe here it was time to play something like bishop g5, a normal move in such positions, and to go a3, bishop c2, queen d3. I went for a3 immediately, trying to form a battery with bishop c2, queen d3 in the future. And also it's useful to not allow knight b4, even because black would just block on d5. But even if he gets that, knight b4, knight d5, it leaves e5 square pretty weak. He went for rook c8, and now I go for bishop b3. I'm overprotecting this pawn on d5. He went knight d5, rook c1, and I was planning if he takes on e3 to capture back with the pawn. I think it's better to capture with the pawn because now I don't have to worry about the d4 pawn, and I can focus on the king side without worrying about my pawn. But here he took on c3, and now I do the same. I capture on c3, and now I'm not worried about this because of bishop h7, because now the bishop is not on e7 defending g5, which is very important in those Greek gift sacrifices. And now I have this knight g5, and if king g6, I just go queen g4, f5. In case of that, just go back and I would have a great attack here. So he doesn't want to allow that. He plays g6, trying to fianchetto his bishop later on and to make some kind of shelter for his king, not allowing my bishop to get through. And usually that's the way that black defends in these positions, trying to play against this bishop, which is the most dangerous piece in this position, trying to form a light square blockade. But now I play a4 first, trying to save my pawn, queen d6, and now h4. I'm playing a move which is nowadays quite normal, h4, trying to push h5 and to somehow ruin these pawns on the king side. Rook fd8 and now h5. Here it was also good to play knight g5, with some ideas maybe with knight h7 next and queen h5. I think that would be very strong. I went immediately with h5, and now black went with bishop f6, trying to employ his bishop, to fianchetto his bishop to make some protection. But I think that the best was to go queen d5 here, to stop knight g5, and also to hint some battery on this diagonal. But instead he went for bishop f6, which allowed me to go knight g5 now. I remembered I have to play knight g5, and after knight e7, trying to get his knight to f5, which is also a very important defensive resource in these positions. I've seen this in Kamsky versus Karpov, I think, several years later. I didn't know about this maneuver, but black did, I guess, and that's what made my life much tougher. I went queen g5, knight f5 now, and black threatens to eliminate my good bishop on e3. So I go bishop f4, queen f8, hg, and at this moment I feel like I need to have something, some decisive blow here. But I simply couldn't find the right move. Here I played bishop e5, which was a very bad move. I blundered really badly, like Nepo at the World Championship. It was really bad. Instead, if I played rook e6, which was devastating, in case he takes, I just take, and if queen f7, I just take on f5, and black can just resign here. Because on the next move I'm gonna take on g6. What can black do if he does king h7? What is he going to do? Queen h5? Probably just bishop e6. Bishop g6. And if takes, check, and checkmate. This is devastating for black. Oh yeah, if he takes on g5 here, queen g5, f e6, still I can take on g6, and if he goes back to g7, I can go bishop e5 first. Take a look, this is a rook down position, but it doesn't have much play here. If he tries something like rook d5, I can just go calmly. Here, threaten bishop h7, if he takes, I can just take, and after a move like bishop d5, I can go bishop g6, and he is in very bad shape. And after f e6, queen g6, queen g7, I can take queen f7 and take on f5, and after this I have 3 pawns for an exchange, which is ridiculously good. I can just simply push those pawns, and with 2 bishops I think it will be much easier. But sadly, I don't see it. I don't see rook e6 to capture at least a pawn. I play bishop e5. And now my trouble began. He took on e5, and I took with the rook immediately, because I thought that there was nothing better, but actually there was. I could have taken with the bishop, and if gf, just go here, and after queen g7 to defend from checkmate, then to capture with the pawn. And then I might even have rook e3, rook g3 next. That might be some kind of a play, but there I just play rook e5, like I don't have any in-between moves like I did. And here he found a decisive blow, very simple tactic, using the fact that my rook is not defending the first rank, my rook on c1, so he took on d4. Now I took, and I'm simply a pawn down, and my attack is not very convincing. Now black is the one who is taking over. I went back, bishop c6 now. He wants even to capture my pawn on a4. But here it was better to go knight h4, to attack my g2 pawn. And in case of this, to go rook c3, somehow to force me to exchange bishops, because I guess if bishop b1 you can take on f3. And this is just too dangerous for me. Way too dangerous. This was much more efficient, but he chose bishop c6 and he gave me some hope here. I took on f5, ef, and now queen g3, trying somehow to play for this d-passed pawn. And black played f4, and here again I took like I don't have any other option. It was really remarkable how I was playing reactively this game of chess. I could have played queen g4 and I could have kept queens on the board, with the same d5 threat, closing the bishop, maybe creating some potential threats to black's king. But I took queen f4, knight f4. I was so happy to have an endgame and try to hold on. Rook c4, and now I played d5. It's bad to capture because of taking, and after this, just rook e7 would quite comfortably equalize, I believe. So he takes on a4, and now he's a pawn up again. King g3, defending the knight, and after king f8, d6, bishop c6. Now I cannot use my d-passed pawn. I played this trying to eliminate some pawns. Maybe this was still savable. Maybe today, when I'm a better player, maybe I could save this. But I think it was best to go for rook c7, rook c8 and defend from this side. But somehow I went for rook a3, even though I knew all the principles. Maybe I was trying to get my knight via d3 or something like that. He went king e7, and now his king gets more active, which is pretty annoying. And I think that around here I kind of gave up. I thought this was going to be very tough to defend. I didn't put up too much fight here. I played something like this, knight e2, king d5, and I try to hold on to activate my king. I could have played better here, for sure. Something like g4, knight d4, trying to stop this b pawn. So I think around here it was pretty much dead. He pushed his pawn, I exchanged in the end, and you'll see this rook endgame, which was my only hope, but I couldn't do much. After this, he just gets to b1 and gets the bridge. Yeah, now after this, rook f6, I took on f7, but after queen, it was just game over. I resigned, and this was the 4th loss in a row. The 4th loss, and it became really painful now. It became really painful. I was very upset because I could not save a single game, at least make a draw. But I could not even do that. So, and the next game I was playing against a 2150 player, and you'll see that in the next video. That's it. I think I played a pretty good game until this bishop e5 move. I think I kept the initiative really well, but bishop e5 was just not a good move, blundering the pawn, and after that it all went south. Thank you again, and see you very soon. Bye.